we will refuse to do it. If the federal government tries to deport law-abiding New Yorkers who have no representation, we will step in, we will work and build on the work of the City Council to provide these New Yorkers with the lawyers they need to protect them and their families. If the Justice Department orders local police to resume stop and frisk, we will not comply. We won't trade in neighborhood policing for racial profiling. If there are threats to federal funding for Planned Parenthood of New York City, we will ensure women receive the health care they need. If Jews or Muslims or members of the LGBT community or any community are victimized and attacked, we will find their attackers, we will arrest them, we will prosecute them. This is New York. Nothing about who we are changed on Election Day. We are always New York. Somos siempre Nueva York.
Assalamu alaikum. In the aftermath of the 2016 elections, the American Muslim community was surprised with the results, and it would not be an overstatement to say we were disappointed with the results. The unfortunate negative consequences of these elections have already begun to become apparent. Incidents of hate crimes and Islamophobia have risen dramatically. And this has led to some Muslims having a sense of dread and fear. And as the video shows, that the Trump effect is not always negative. There has been a negative effect, that is a fact. There has also been a positive effect. Across the nation, allies of the Muslim community, from elected political leaders, interfaith leaders, labor union leaders, minority right leaders have stepped forward and have made a vocal point of stating their support and their unity with the Muslim community. Of course, these all are forms of hope for us. But for the Muslims, our greatest hope and reliance is upon Allah the Exalted, the one from whom we receive our rights and the one to whom we make all our appeals to. So in this note, inshallah, today we will have a panel discussion, a talk show, and we have here a very esteemed panel that is composed of, and I'm going to butcher people's resumes, so inshallah I'm just going to mention their names, and my recommendation or suggestion is when you take the microphone for the first time, please begin by giving us like a 30 to 60 second bio of who you are and your involvement in the civic rights arena or the political arena. So give us your name, your organizational affiliation, your bank account number. No, I'm kidding. I thought this was a fundraiser, no, never mind. So other than the bank account number, tell us a little bit about yourself. I'm going to begin by giving a short, it's very unusual for me to do so, but I will begin by telling you a little bit about myself to help set the stage. So my name is Asad Zaman. I'm an imam with the Muslim American Society in the great state of Minnesota, which is the greatest state in America. Okay, fine, California is good. We are the state that elected the first Muslim to Congress. We are the state where the Muslim Day at the Capitol started 14 years ago. We are also the state that in the same year the nation elected Donald Trump, we elected the first Somali woman to be a legislator in the entire country. You can clap now. Minnesota, not from here. See, there are pieces of hope that I want to talk about. And I want to mention just two incidents. So a long time ago, 15 years ago, I was visiting the state capitol as part of an education visit, or a visit of educators to the state capitol. And at that time, there were only 4 non-white people in the entire legislature in Minnesota. And so I met with the people I was assigned to meet, and I was in the cafeteria in the state legislature in St. Paul. And I came across an African-American gentleman named Keith Ellison. He said, "Why are you here?" I said, "I'm here to talk about education." And he said, "Let me ask you a question. Are you Muslim?" I said, "Yes, I am Muslim." I was not dressed like this. Right? And he said, "So am I. I'm Muslim. I'm a legislator." It's the first time I knew there was a Muslim legislator in Minnesota. So we decided to have lunch 2 days from there. We made an appointment and I met him for lunch. And I will never forget, because when I tried to pay for the lunch, he asked me, "Am I a registered lobbyist?" I'm like, "What? What kind of question is that? I'm trying to buy lunch for my new friend." It's like, it doesn't work like that. I'm a legislator. If you're a lobbyist, I cannot take your lunch. "Well, I'm not a lobbyist." I said, "Okay, then I can take your lunch." So on that day, we talked about the possibility of him running for Congress. And I will never forget, a few years later, I was driving on the road and I heard NPR say, "Breaking news, the 5th Congressional District in Minnesota is going to be empty, vacant, because the congressman is retiring." Okay, as I'm listening to this news, literally the news is 30 seconds old. I get a phone call, it's from my friend Keith Ellison. He says, "Brother Assad, Assalamu alaikum, wa alaikum assalam. This is an emergency. What's going on, brother?" I said, "Remember that lunch we had?" I said, "Yes." I said, "Remember the promise you had made that day?" I said, "Yes, I remember that promise. I had promised that if you run for Congress, I will collect $20,000 for you. Is that promise still good?" "Yes, it is." So, "I gotta go. Assalamu alaikum." 60-second phone call. I'm still driving, I have a long ways to go. 5-6 minutes later, breaking news, the second person who has thrown his hat in the ring is State Representative Keith Ellison. So I want us to understand this concept, okay? Because sometimes we think that the political system has no hope for us. That is not true. The situation looks very hopeless until we realize that literally the Democratic Party is considering 2 human beings to save the party from extinction. And one of the 2 human beings is a Muslim. Right? And I've often heard this statement that American politics is controlled by the Zionist lobby. There is no hope for Muslims to do anything. And I think today we will have amazing speakers who will tell you that that's not the case. It's actually not exactly the way people think. Politics is for those who show up. The problem with the Muslim community, we don't consistently show up. When I ran to become a national delegate to the Democratic Party this election cycle, I was a Bernie delegate, by the way. I ran for 2 seats, one of 2 seats. And there were 37 candidates running for those 2 seats. 6 of those 37 candidates were Jewish. And I won. Okay, so think about that statement. And later on, some of the Jewish candidates came and said, "By the way, I voted for you." Would you like to know what I said? Because you're only allowed to give a 60-second speech. So explain why you need to go to Philadelphia to be a national delegate. Explain it in 60 seconds. So I said, "As you know, I'm an imam. I am Muslim, and the Muslim vote has turned the tide in Michigan and is a demonstration that the politics of unity espoused by Senator Bernie Sanders can be done. You should send a Muslim imam to go support a Jewish senator to send the message that we are America, we are united. That message got me elected by a wide margin. So this country, there is a lot of hope. There is a lot of hope in this country. The question is, how do we access it? And to answer that question, we have this wonderful panel, and we'll go according to the order they are seated in. And first, we will call upon Brother Osama Jamal. Please begin by giving us a 30 to 60-second introduction to yourself, and then please try to answer the question, how do we move forward from the situation we are in today?
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam.
Yeah, I've been almost 6 hours flying, so I would like to stand, not to continue sitting. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله. Brothers and sisters, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
I am Osama Jamal, a proud member of MAS. I'm also the Director of Public Affairs and Civic Engagement of MAS. I'm also the Secretary General of the U.S. Council of Muslim Organizations, which I was told that you would be interested in knowing who is the U.S. Council of Muslim Organizations and what it is all about. That's all about myself. And I wish I wasn't the moderator. Seems like I can talk more. So I will have a little bit, inshallah, to give you a quick answer on what after the election. I think that's the question, right? Briefly on the U.S. Council of Muslim Organizations. Several years back at the Mass ICNA Convention in Chicago, precisely in 2010, a group of Muslim leaders, we thought that we need to do something for the Muslims to get out of the conventions that we hold every year. What could be a substantive matter that will help the Muslim community? We come to these conventions and we mingle, we socialize, we listen to great speakers. But we need something really tangible, something that we really have what we call the roadmap, a strategy, 5 years, 10 years strategy. So we thought of discussing things among the major Muslim organizations. Started in December 2010. And then we took about a year and a half, almost 2 years, actually two and a half years, discussing the formation of a council for the national organizations, regional organizations, as well as local organizations. That will bring us all together, because unity is power. Do you agree with me?
Yes.
Sure. So alhamdulillah, in 2013, we formed the U.S. Council of Muslim Organizations, and the 8 founding members, always listed in alphabetical order: AMP, American Muslim for Palestine; CARE, ICNA, MANA, MAS, MLFA, MUNA, and Ministry of Imam Warith ad-Din Muhammad. Those we call them the 8 founding members. And of course, over the years we had more people joining, more organizations, joining us, including the Shura Council, the Islamic Shura Council of Southern California, and we have also the Shura Council of New York, and we have the Shura Council of Oklahoma, and then we have the Shura Council of Northwestern Pacific, which is Washington, Idaho, in that area. and counting. IIIT, the Mosque Foundation, Beit al-Mal, ICNA Relief, UMR, and the list goes on, almost 26 organizations from 8 to 26 and counting. Of course, this was a major news. We held a press conference in Washington, D.C. at the National Press Club, and we announced it. It made huge news in the Washington area. All of those who are interested, monitoring, chasing Muslim organizations, they were interested about this new major organization. We held several meetings, several activities, amongst them a community forum on countering violent extremism. Then we held 2 events. The National Muslim Advocacy Day on Capitol Hill, attended by almost 280 people. We met with half of the House, one-third of the House and half of the Senate, advocating Muslim issues as well as American issues. And we held the first conference ever of Muslim councils in the Western Hemisphere, from UK, Germany, France, Belgium, Sweden, Spain, Australia, South America, and South Africa, because we all share common interest and we face similar challenges, and we all have similar opportunities. So we met together in Washington, D.C. early this year, and we discussed several issues, including countering violent extremism, including immigration, including immigration and refugees. And alhamdulillah, we made what we call it the Washington Declaration, forming a large council for all these Muslim councils in the Western Hemisphere. And inshallah, soon that will be inaugurated and formed and announced. Unity is power, that's no doubt about it. After the San Bernardino shooting and the frequent statements by Donald Trump about Muslims banning, surveillance, monitoring, we held an emergency summit in Washington for the national Muslim leaders. And in that summit, we discussed our response to the rise of Islamophobia, to the rise of hate crimes against our community, and we discussed how the response should be. And a day long, about 120, and last time, which is I think last Sunday or last Sunday, we had also another emergency summit after the election. Back in December 2015, we announced the One America campaign. In that summit, all the national Muslim leaders came together. We sent an invitation to everyone, and they came from almost 15 states. And we discussed what our response should be, and we came up with the One America campaign, and also it was announced at the National Press Club in Washington, D.C. Very well attended by the media, national and international. One of the major initiatives in this campaign was the 1 million voter registration drive. I don't know how many of you have heard of the 1 million voter drive that was announced by the U.S. Council of Muslim Organizations. And basically all our organizations work together to push our community to respond to the challenge and be politically active. And alhamdulillah, we believe we have topped the 1 million voters drive. And we have exceeded that target. by simple mathematics. And we have seen the response from all cities, different states. Our people truly engaged in this political process. And that's the core of the issue for the Muslim community. Our involvement, our engagement. And so much about the U.S. Council, these are the type of things that we do. What's important for us now, of course, is to grow this council so that we are much stronger. The more we are together, making our policies and strategies together, owning our strategy and implementing it on the ground, that's the very important thing for our community. First of all, we have to stop thinking we are still going to go back home, because this is home. We are Americans. We have to feel it. We have to believe it. We have to act as Americans, because America is a nation of immigrants. No one is better than anyone else. All we have to contribute, all sharing a document, a piece of paper. It says the U.S. Constitution. That's what binds us all together. That provides freedom of speech, freedom of religion to all of us. And therefore, brothers and sisters, we Muslim Americans will be the champions and defenders of the Constitution, because it guarantees our religious freedom. If this Constitution is hijacked by extremists, then many people in this country will be deprived of their rights. Therefore, we have to safeguard the Constitution as the founding fathers put it together for all who come to the United States. Maybe you're hearing this for the first time, maybe you have heard it before, but that is truly how we believe, and that's how we should be acting. We are going to see some tough times coming in. I know my time is up, and I think there are so much that I need to share with you. I don't want you to be scared, but certainly and truly we are going to have tough times ahead of us, because President-elect vowed to promote Islamophobia in this country by the different projects that he wanted to install in his government. And he proved it so far by most of his appointees. All reinforce his Islamophobic background. So we are up to a serious and real fight. And we are going to stand up for our rights. And we can only stand up for our rights is when we engage with others and form coalition, alliances. There are a lot in this country who will support us and those who will stand with us. You are not alone, and you have to be proud of who you are. We take it with great pride. We are Muslims and Muslim Americans, and our contribution to this country is great and will continue to be great as long as we feel and act as Americans. Hopefully, down the road, meaning either tonight or later on, that I will have more chance to speak with you and share with you more of the things that I came exclusively, as I was asked, to share with you. Thank you.
Jazakumullah khairan, Akhi Usama. Inshallah, we would like to have a talk show style conversation, so I would like to start by posing some questions. And if you can be seated as you try to answer them and keep the answers to like 3 minutes or less. I'd like to call on Brother Hussam first. Brother Hussam, of course, people know that you are the Executive Director of CARE Los Angeles, and you are at the forefront of civil rights and liberties of not just Muslim Americans, but all Americans. But also, I think in your private capacity, you are somewhat famous for your involvement in the Democratic Party. And things you have done that not necessarily an organization like CARE or MAS can do, but you have done in your capacity as an American citizen. So can you tell us a little bit about some of the things that an individual person can do? Any one of the individuals here, or those who are watching on Facebook Live, what are some things that an individual can do to deal with the political realities that we are facing now?
Sure. Assalamu alaikum, first of all. I think it's important because as I was sitting at the CARE booth throughout the last couple of days, I had so many community members come to me and share with me some of their concerns. And these are legitimate concerns. After all, we've dealt with many months of campaigning that engaged victimizing Muslims, using Muslims as a punching bag, talking about Muslims as if they're the enemy, making promises that Muslims would be forced to be registered, promising that Muslims would be banned from this country. So this rhetoric has created anxiety, fear, sometimes even depression, and I've had to deal with a lot of that, hearing from community members saying, what is next? Is it safe for me to send my children to an Islamic school? Is it safe for us to keep the hijab? Shall we shave our beards? These are some of the questions mentioned by people. So it's important, first of all, to remind everyone that this is our country, as Brother Osama said. This is our country. This is not a fake thing. It's not a PR. There's no other place for us. And even if some of us have come from other places, I don't think there's any comparison for us to even compare between here, or I can name a lot of other countries. If you've left 30 years ago, things are not in a good shape to even consider visiting, including going to Canada or Mexico or any other place. This is our country, and we're going to fight tooth and nail with every legal means to make it the safe place for every person in America. And if anyone, any entity, any group of people have a problem with Muslims, what are we going to tell them? We're going to hold a fundraising event for them to buy them one-way tickets to go back to their countries of origin, right? That's going to be the only way. If Trump and his supporters have a problem with Muslims being in America, we will hold a fundraising. This is a very generous community, and inshallah we'll buy them, each one of them, a one-way ticket back to Europe. And they will be surprised because there are a lot of Muslims there. I know Europeans will be very upset at us if we send our junk there. But they sent it to us to begin with. The reality is, no need for us to panic. Yes, it is going to be challenging in the next few months, considering that Trump has made some nasty, dangerous, unconstitutional promises to his supporters. So he must deliver on some of them. Not all of them. He can't deliver on all of them because it's impossible. They're unconstitutional. So he might deliver on some of them, and we might be the group of choice because we're the weakest link in their mind. But things are not that bad for us because one of the main things is the Constitution remains. Regardless who is president, that Constitution remains. And that Constitution would protect the rights of all people in America, inshallah. And we're going to use it and protect it and uphold it to its fullest. That means if we need to go to court, we'll take him to court. If it means to build political power, we'll build political power. Second thing is to maybe build on the question that Brother Asad mentioned, is that what can we do? Understand the changing political map in America. It is extremely important to understand that because it is so easy for us to look at the situation the way others judge us, to generalize against Muslims. The reality is most people in America are not anti-Muslim. Most people in America did not vote for Trump. They did not. The majority of people in America voted against Trump or refused to vote for him or either of the parties, basically. Number two, the majority of people who voted for Trump did not vote for him in agreement with his anti-Muslim rhetoric. The majority, this is not me saying, this is the surveys, the studies. The majority of people who voted for Trump voted for him for economic reasons. Because he promised them, he fooled them basically. He exploited their fear and some of their ignorance. he exploited that, and they voted for him for economic reasons, because he promised them that they'll be rich and millionaires like him. So the reality is we're dealing with a small white nationalist, white supremacist group of people who are riding on the wave of Trump. They are up to a big surprise. They're going to be surprised because they will be the first group that he will dump. And they hopefully will channel their hatred at him, not at us. So the changing political map is this. We had to face as a community the brunt of an anti-Muslim backlash after 9/11, when Muslims were unfairly targeted for the act of a few deranged people. What happened? The Bush administration, John Ashcroft, Rumsfeld, and others, and Cheney started targeting American Muslims. And we survived. Not only we survived, we actually grew. We grew in number, in strength, in network. And we were able to do it back then when we were still weaker. Today, we are multiple times stronger as a community. We have stronger mass, stronger MLFAs, CARES, MPAC, USCMOs. We didn't have these groups before, or at least not as strong as they are now. We have dozens and dozens of Muslim lawyers, attorneys. We have dozens and dozens of allies, friends, civil rights groups that are standing with us and committing to fight the legal fight, the political fight, the media fight on our behalf. Let me tell you one thing. When in 2001 we were attacked as a Muslim community, the fame, I can tell you the overwhelming majority of people in America had no clue how to come to our aid. They didn't know. They didn't know these attacks were true. So they were mostly spectators. You know what happens now? Because there are so many people who dislike and reject the rhetoric, the bigoted, divisive, hateful rhetoric of Trump. Those who don't like Trump, you know the common, what they say, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. So those who don't like Trump, and they don't like they don't like the fact he's attacking Muslims and other minorities, are jumping to the aid of Muslims today. So people we never thought would come to our aid, whether it's the Democratic Party, sensible people within the Republican Party, are coming to the aid of Muslims. Not because they love us maybe, but because they're rejected. They're understanding that this route, this path of Trump is going to destroy our country, and nobody wants to see our country destroyed. So they're coming to our aid now. Civil rights groups, ethnic groups, Latino groups, African American groups, women's groups, you name it, they're coming and saying, how can we help? Ask every masjid and they will tell you how many people are calling, how many local churches and synagogues coming. When you hear the mayor of New York, for those who had the chance to watch the video, de Blasio saying, we will stand. When you hear let's put it this way, ADL, not that friendly to Muslims, ADL that had been attacking Muslims for decades, when the executive director of ADL says, if the government starts registering Muslims, I will register as a Muslim. What does that mean? Things are changing, the political map is changing. It's up to us to understand what is happening, inshallah, and get engaged. The key to it is get engaged politically. So I take off my CARE hat now. I speak as a political activist, specifically as a democratic activist. But you can be a Republican activist, you can be independent activist. The key is to be partisan, in a partisan way activist. How? Join a party. If you're not yet with a party, you have to join one. And in reality, we have two strong ones here, Republicans and Democrats. Choose one and be active with it. You want to be a Green Party member, that's fine with me. But I can tell you, your ability to make a big difference is weaker. But that's fine. We need people based on what your ideology might be, or closer to them. Run for office. And if you don't want to run for office, find somebody who's running for office who's close to your values and support them. Volunteer on their campaign. Raise money for their campaign. Host meetings with your city council members and community members at your home. Host these meet and greet events. Attend, become a delegate. How many of you would be interested in joining a political party and be a delegate, so you attend monthly meetings? Build in what is happening, explain to them the challenges we're dealing. There are a lot of aspects that I would like to elaborate on, inshallah, but the main thing, as I said yesterday, and I will say it again today, we live, yes, in some challenging times, trying times. Wallahi, I look at it the other way. We live probably in our biggest opportunities that we'll ever see. We are witnessing today. We live at a time when we're witnessing our biggest opportunity ever. The whole country is waiting to hear from Muslims. The whole country is speaking about Muslims. Some are speaking badly, some are defending us. the ones whose voice is missing somehow is that community, the Muslim community. We need to turn our community into spokespeople, into activists. We need to be seen at every possibility, every place to make that voice heard of the Muslim community. Inshallah, we'll elaborate more if time permits, and if not, meet me outside and I can give you ideas of how you, based on your interest and your skills, inshallah, can make a positive difference for the Muslim community, but inshallah, more importantly, for our country. Jazakumullah khair.
Inshallah, time will permit.